Hello guys, welcome all of you on behalf of Sankiki. This will be a short session. Here I'll give an overview of data science and machine learning with Python course. We are imparting many courses. This is one of them. This is not a technical session. This is not a presentation. I'll not give a seminar on data science and machine learning here as well. I will take you through the topics we'll be covering in this course, data science and machine learning with Python. Also towards the end, I will mention some important topics which will cover in other courses, so that once you complete this course, you will be at a position to join the other course and you learn whatever required to keep yourself at the top of this career. Now, let's get started. So it's very interesting. If you note here, I will find 5 power 5 here. 5 multiplied by 5, if you write here, you will get 25. But I want to find 5 power 5. This will give you 5 power 5. But if you write 3 stars, you will not get 5 power 5. That's why you have to do in a different way. Let me write A is equal to 5 power 5. Then B is equal to 5 power A. A is 5 power 5. So it will give you 5 power 5 this way, without any bracket. Power 5. It's not 5 power 5 bracketed power 5. That would be 5 power 25, and it's not a very big number. So I would like to run this and print B. So I'm not into programming, right? So I'm running this. So if you see how many lines we have here, if you count, we have around 20 to 25 lines. This is such a big number. It's 5 power 5. So even if you have a very good knowledge of mathematics and statistics, you will not be able to find this in less than 24 hours. It takes a lot of time. Even then, you are not sure whether you will be able to match this one or not. Even if you try with suppose 9 power 9 power 9, 9 power 9. When I frame a question, it takes 2 seconds time. But when you find this, I don't think it might take a lot of time. I'm not sure. You can try. I'm not going to do this because I know it will take a lot of time. So I'm deleting this one. We are back to the same page. Ever since the term data scientist came onto the scene, there have been a cross-generational debate raising attempts to distinguish data scientists and statisticians. So here, if you search in Google, you will get to know these 3-4 lines. A data scientist is someone who is better at statistics than any software engineer and better at software engineering than any statistician. So we must believe that both are important. Software engineering skills and statistics, both are important. Coming to programming part here, it's important for speeding up the input and output process in a machine. Programming is also important because By any programming language, we can automate, collect, manage, calculate, analyze, processing of data and information. So programming is a must. I'll not talk about statistics here, because when we talk about data, if you want to analyze data, you need a lot of statistics here, mathematics as well, and in-depth knowledge of statistics is necessary. By the end of this session, you will be able to know what will be the role of statistics here. Of course, I will also take you through the topics we have included here in our Python programming language. I want to make it very easy for you. You see, ultimately, what you are supposed to do is something like this. You have data in form of text, data in form of images, data in form of video. We have concept of IoT, Internet of Things. Data comes in different formats. How to process data? That you have to do anyway with the help of any programming language, preferably Python. Why Python? You will be able to know by the end of this session. Now, this is a very simple one. Given data to you, some circles are given and some rectangles are given. Can you make a classifier? After studying any course, suppose you studied a three-month course, or you want to study a 3-month course, just bring this to your mind and you think, after completing the 3-month course, will you be able to make a classifier which will classify circles from rectangles? See, we have given, this is the classifier here. We'll use this. See here, data, only 2 types here, and this is the classifier. Okay, you want to train. Finally, why we say classifier? We can say regressor also, because it's doing classification task. So when we talk about classification, it will classify whether these are rectangles or circles. So that's why it's a classifier. Can you make a classifier? How easy it is? Is it possible to do that? What algorithms you need to use to make a classifier like this? So all these things will come. It appears so easy, but yeah, it will be a difficult task, I'm sure. Remember. Now let me clear all drawings. Let's go to the next one. This is a very important and very old data. This data talks about three flowers: Iris, versicolor, virginica, and setosa. What we do here in this data, you see there are, see the first column here, 1 to 150. Here 50 of each kind we have, and for every kind there are 3 types, 3 kinds for every kind. Suppose we talk about versicolor, here sepal and petal, sepal length and sepal width we have written here. And for the other flower also, petal length, petal, sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width. For setosa also same. So 50, 50, 50, 150. So this is a data set where you have 150 rows, 50 from each flower. For every, for each flower, we have mentioned here the length and width for both sepal and petal. So can you make sense of this data? Let's see if you can make any sense of this data. We have used different algorithms. As I already mentioned, this is not a technical session. I'll not be taking through all the algorithms here. It might take a long time. So I'll not do that. However, see here, we use different algorithms here and we came up with this one. See how the three things are separated now. Here the blue ones and the red ones here, and these are here, okay, brown, whatever color. Here also divided. So the way one algorithm divides, that is different from the way the other algorithm divides. However, you got a classification. In each case, we classified the three flowers this way. So this kind of a classification you will be able to do once you learn the algorithms. Coming to the algorithms, these are 100% mathematics and statistics. And then you need to implement using one of the programming languages. And Python is the best presently. We'll see how it is. Not only that, so see the three flowers here, Setosa, versicolor and virginica. So if you can make a 3D graph, how clearly you can see the separation. Here you're black, here green, here red. So the 3D graphs, this is called visualization. If you are using R programming, then you have to use ggplot2. If you are using Python programming, then you have to use matplotlib. We'll go to that later in the session. The second one you see here, this is a regression task, and we have three variables here. Given two variables, you want to predict the third variable. For that, we need a hyperplane. We need a plane which will probably pass through most of the points. Again, I will go to that later in this session. Let's go forward. Now, before going to the algorithms, I need to take you through the Python programming, the topics of the Python programming we have included in this course. First, we'll start with Python fundamentals, working with interactive mode and scripting mode. So when you want to work with interactive mode, you can interact. How you can interact? You just write a is equal to 5, then run it, you will see the output. Then write another line, b is equal to 10, then execute it, you print it, you will be able to print 10. So line by line when you do, you are interacting every time and you are getting the output. That is called interactive mode. Then comes script mode. Those who have already started studying this, or those who want to start, you will be using script mode only. However, you should know how you can work in interactive mode. You can work using Terminal or using IDLE or Python. It comes with Python. If you download Python, only Python, I'm not talking about Anaconda distribution, only Python, you go to python.org. From there you download. There even you can use IDLE. In the left bottom space, you write IDLE. Automatically it will come if it's properly installed. Then you can write your interactive, you can use interactive mode and you can write line by line and you can execute. However, that's something you can start with, but then you have to go to script mode, and in script mode you have to save the files using .py extension. If you are using Jupyter Notebook, then they come with different extension. It's not .py. Now, what are the Python character set? Obviously, when you are using any language like English, Hindi, or French, any language you are using, we have some characters, right? Here, suppose you want to use a character like @ or maybe underscore. Is it valid or not? That you have to know. What are all characters we use in this language? When you are talking of a programming language, you think like a human language, English, suppose. So we have all alphabets. Again, when we human talk, we use all numbers, decimal numbers like 0 to 9, then 10, 11, 12. That way, what are the numbers allowed here, and what are the letters, digits, symbols allowed, and how can you define a variable. So everything is written. On the top of that, in Python especially, there is something called Gen of Python. You can search it. Gen of Python, remember, JDN, Gen of Python. So there are 19 lines. If you can import it, and you can see here we believe in Python programming as a Pythonistia, or you can say you are someone who is interested in Python. You are a part of Python community. So what you should prefer. So one of them I'm uttering here. I will show towards the end of the session what are all those. There are 19. You have to write import this, then you will get all those. Simple is better than complex. Simple code is better than complex. Complex is better than complicated. Beautiful is better than ugly. These are the Gen of Python. Similarly, we have 19. I uttered 3 of them. I will show everyone at the end of this session. Even we have PEP 8 style. They prescribe the way you have to write, whether you can start a class with a capital letter or a small case letter, whether you can start a function name with a small letter or capital letter. If you want to follow the standard, then you have to follow PEP 8 style. That also I will show you at the end of this session. Now then comes your assignment statements, input and output. So if you want, I've written a few lines for each one. You just go through. Then comes string manipulation. So in every programming language, we have strings and numbers. So we give space in every programming language. Suppose you want to store a number like 5. Then you want to store a name like Amit. Will not use same amount of space. They're different. So it's not universal. However, in Python programming, we talk about doc typing. Doc typing means you need not say that type. You write A is equal to 5, then you can erase 5 and you can write A is equal to Amit, then you print A, Amit will be printed. So what I want to say is, here in Python, this is a dynamic language, so we'll not worry about the type. Again, I'm not going in details. All those things, you learn these things. Now, list is a collection basically. So there you can write, suppose 10, 20, 30, 40, you can make a list. And then you can make a list of your friends. You can make a list of whatever things you want to purchase from the market. You can make a list of things which are important for you tomorrow. Ultimately, list is the most used one in data science. So you have to do it properly. It's very simple. The syntax is very simple, but then list is also an object. In Python, everything is object. You have to understand it in the object oriented way, because you have list methods. How can you use the list methods? Those things you need to learn. Again, few lines we have written here. You can go through those lines. Then comes tuple. So if you want to make something immutable in the sense you will not be able to erase it, then tuple comes to rescue. You can do all your work using lists, but then you want to, if you change it to tuple, you want to make things immutable so that others can change it, then you have to come to tuples. In tuples also, we collect data. Tuples are also indexed. Indexed means you can get one by one. It's like this. We write this way in tuples. Okay. So you write whatever elements you want to write. Index, when I say, you can get access to this element by index 0, whatever this is. So if you name this way, a is equal to this, and then you want to print this one, then take the name and within square bracket you write 0, you will get this one. Then to get this one, you write 1. So indexing starts with 0. Unlike R programming, index starts with 1 there. Here index starts with 0. 0, 1, 2, 3. Again, this is a sequence type, though immutable. Clear all drawing. Acha. If you want to make a list, you just change this one. This is a list. And you can make it a tuple. And if you make it curly bracket, that will be a set. You make it a curly bracket, that will be a set. When we talk about sets, in sets, repetition is not allowed. Suppose I write 10, 20, 10. If you find the length of this set, you will get 2, not 3, because repetition is not allowed. If repetition is not allowed, order is not important, then how can you get access to each element, writing S0, S1, S2? That is not present here. They're not indexed. So remember, sets are collections. There is no ordering here. And here also you can keep objects. Basically, there are 4 types, 4 data types which are important. First one is list, then tuple, then sets, then dictionary. Dictionaries, where it's like a dictionary. You suppose someone's name is, someone's roll number is 1, and his name is Amit. You write this way, and it's a mapping. Okay. Then 2, then name is Ramit. Okay, that way you can write. This will be a dictionary. So when I say this is a mapping, here these are called keys and these are called values. So in keys, you can write something immutable, and not necessarily 1, 2, 3. You can write anything here. So here, if you want to access this element in tuple, list, how you do is, even in strings also, you write the index and get it. But here, if you write the index, you will not get it. Again, I'm not going through the technicality here. I'm just taking you through the topics we'll be covering. Now, the next one comes operators here. When we talk about Python operators, not necessarily in this programming language Python, everywhere operators are important. We have logical operator, we have relational operator, greater than, less than. Then when we talk about assignment operators, so you want to assign, then there is a operator precedence also. You have to know which one should get first preference. That's all, nothing more here. Then these are the if else statements we extensively use in the base programming. So when I talk about base programming, these are extensively used. Then comes looping and iteration. They're very, very important. We use for and while loops like other programming languages. We have nested loops also. But again, if you go by GenUp Python, we don't encourage to use more nested loops. Break and continue, they have specific use, will do that. Range function is very important, and everywhere you see in most of the base Python programming, range function comes, and without range will not be able to do it properly. We'll learn everything one by one, but remember, looping is very important. If you want to execute a block of statements several times, then you have to use a loop. If else statements, they are very important to decide where you go, what to do. Now coming back to functions here, wherever you have a repeated task, suppose something is there you want to repeat, instead of adding two numbers, I can write A is 5, B is 7, C is A plus B print C. That means you're adding two numbers. You want to do it for 100 students. 100 students in a class, they want to add. So, I mean, 100 times on 100 into three number of variables you should not take. You take one, you call the function. For every one, function will be same. You call, you give input NB and you call it, you get it. So, in a very simple way, I'm explaining. Functions have lot of uses. Okay, we say procedures here whenever you write functions. Again, coming to programming, there are three paradigms. Procedural language, okay, they were there before starting from Fortran. Then comes object-oriented language. Many like C++, Java, and Python, they are object-oriented languages. Python supports object-oriented. Also, Python is a functional language. Functional language means we don't talk about functions. It's more than functions. When we talk about function, remember, these are called procedures, procedural language. Then comes object-oriented language. And Python is mostly object-oriented type. Though if you want to pursue data science, you need not give a lot of importance, because you will not be using the object-oriented concept extensively. But remember, everything starting from list to tuple to dictionary to anything and everything in Python, based Python, then in the libraries and in applications of data science, you will see the approach is object-oriented. So if you learn object-oriented programs once in a lifetime, that will definitely be helpful to you. Although functional programming gains a lot of importance recently, here also we have concept of lambda functions. I'll show you later here. So that's also important. Coming back to the functions here, the scope of variable. So within a function, whatever variables you define, those are local to the function. They will not be accessible outside the function. And how can you get access to those outside the function, whether it's possible or not, and what are global variables, whether you can get access to global variables within the function or not, those things you need to study. It will take 3-4 classes. The next one is modules. Modules are very, very important. We have math module, we have statistics module, we have random module, we have time module. If you want to import a module, because they are separately, they are to make the language very simple and short, you need to import a module and use the functionality. Suppose you want to take square root. You write square root of 25 SQR. It will not work, because square root functionality is not there in whatever you do. You have to import it from outside. Okay. So what is a module, you need to know. So module is basically block of code that's written separately, and you have to import it and you have to use that functionality. That's all. So how many modules are there? You can check. There are functions, and how many functions are there, how many keywords are there, everything you should know when you are learning this programming language. Then exception handling. Exception handling means, suppose you are doing a task where only humans are allowed. Suppose a dog comes, then obviously it will not be allowed, right? So then you must have a filter. Okay, and you must say that, okay, these are the people who will be allowed here. Humans are only allowed. So how to handle that one? So if you write, it's a 4-line, 5-line thing. if you write try except statement, you will be able to avoid certain other things and you will not get an error. To avoid that error, you have to write exception handling. Object oriented programming, it's very, very important to know if you want to learn data science or you want to be a Python developer. In any case, you need to learn object oriented programming. It will help you to understand this program better, also the usage better, okay, wherever you will use. And last but not the least, high performance Python. So see, if you go by the lines we've written here, what you need to use, remember, there are so many ways. Whatever programming language you are studying, you will be exposed to the complexity in terms of space and time. These are very, very important. Apart from space and time, we have big O concept also. So some programs, if you write there, we write order of n square in terms of complexity, then order of n log n. Okay, so those things you need to know. Any programming language you learn. Apart from those, apart from the time a particular program takes, you can import time module and you can check whether a while loop takes more time as compared to a for loop, or for loop takes more time. And even you will be able to know why a for loop takes less time than compared to a while loop. Similarly, whatever programming you are writing, you have to check. So here, even we have lambda function here, it's here. So high performance Python, when we say, apart from the time and space, other things we can do as well. So we should use list comprehensions, we should use generators. Okay, so there as well will save time and space. Okay, so that way your performance will be more. Then comes functional programming. High performance Python 2 we have written functional programming here. We say lambda, LAMBDA. These are called anonymous functions. We don't give any name to the function. And in combination with this one lambda, we can use 3 more functions, map, filter, and reduce. And you can do awesome things in tool. There are some one-liner codes in Python. You see, in many places, one line of a code in Python gives a lot of output. So the one-liners you can make using lambda function in combination with map, filter, and reduce. Where reduce is not available, you have to get it from functools. That's another thing you need to import. That's a module. Now there are some mini projects here. Not great, beautiful soup. It's a very important one though. Data wrangling. Okay, you can create a small calculator only to practice, but because it's a data science course, will not go deeper than this. Obviously, you learn a lot. It will be useful for you, and you will never feel any trouble learning the whole data science course, whatever we planned here in this course. However, if you want to be a Python developer, you need to learn framework like Flask and Django. Okay, so once you learn Flask, a lot of things will come. You will be able to make web APIs. You should know what is API, whether you do data science or not. That is very, very important. Okay, REST API. What is the meaning of REST API? In your free time, you can search it and you can try to know what is REST API. That is very useful. So those things you will be able to know. Once you can do that, then you can connect with the web. Little bit of HTML code is also required. That will not take more than 1 or 2 days. Then you can create a website also. I'm talking about backend website, not static websites, what we see normally. Backend website, as a backend developer, you can use Django. And even if you don't want to be Python developer, you want to do data science only, there also you need the knowledge of Flask. Flask is a simpler one as compared to Django, because if you know Flask, you will be able to deploy your model. So first you collect data, then apply you data cleaning, all that pre-processing is there. I'm not going to that. Then apply your model. In contrast to programming, when we talk about machine learning models, here we get a formula, we get a model. So what is our input? We give data as input, and then we get a finally output in the form of a model. It gives a model, unlike traditional programming languages where you give input, you give output. Here we give input, output, we get model. There you give input, get output. It's different, right? You give input in programming, you give model, you get output. Here in data science, you give input, give output, get model. I'll tell you that how what model you are really getting. I'll discuss about that. Okay, 2 minutes today. So there as well, if you start some machine learning model and you have already completed, then you have to deploy it. So where to deploy it, how to deploy it, that part also you have to know. So why we always say Python rather R? Because if you are learning Python, Flask framework is there. It takes only a week's time, 3 to 4 days time to know in a better way. It will take 1 week's time if you learn it, though it's not included in this course. Once you complete this course, if you learn Flask framework, then you will be able to deploy your model using Flask. So for that, it's very, very important. Okay, so you will not be learning codes separately. So that is the usefulness here. If you learn Python, it will take only 4 days time to learn Flask, and you will be able to deploy your model. Until and unless you deploy your model, it's not useful. You have to take it to someone who doesn't know data science, right? You have to make it available to the end user. That's possible. Again, I'm not going to that in this session. Now, data science. Here in data science, the first thing that will come to your mind is Jupyter Notebook, because anything and everything we'll do will use Jupyter Notebook. I already showed you when I started. I wanted to find 5 power 5 power 5. I use Jupyter Notebook for all. For all the statements we write, we use Jupyter Notebook. Okay, and it's open source web application that will allow you to create and share documents that contain live code, equations, visualizations, and now you can clean your data. You can do some kind of transformation, numerical simulation, statistical modeling, data visualization, machine learning, and much more. So you'll be able to know once you do it. Statistics is a tool for data science for sure, because the root of data science is data. So when we talk about data, you have to know what is the mean of data, what is the median, what is the mode, what is the expected value, what is the variance, what kind of distribution data follows. It's a discrete distribution, it will fall, or it will follow a continuous distribution. We have some discrete distributions like binomial, Poisson distribution, geometric distribution, hypergeometric distribution. We have continuous distributions like normal, log normal, Bird distribution, Weibull distribution. Some distributions we have listed here. Will not be doing everything, but yeah, something that will be very, very useful to you. And we have hypothesis testing, p-value, central limit theorem, that is the building block of statistics, probability distribution function, obviously that will come here, and all these things we will learn here. This will take around a week's time. More you can do, will supplement material for you so that you can learn properly, you can solve some problems, because without the knowledge of statistics, again let me repeat, when we talk about data science, it's 100% mathematics and statistics. But without programming, we can do it, because that's how we'll be able to implement. Now, when you start data science, the first one you see is NumPy. It's a Python package. NumPy means numerical Python. It's one of the core library for scientific computing. which contains powerful n-dimensional array objects. So when I say n-dimensional array objects, what are those and how you can keep data? I will take you through. I will take you through some projects already we have done, how to save data in the form of NumPy, and how it's useful. I will take you through today. After 5 to 7 minutes, when this ends, then we have another package, SciPy. In use, you will be able to know how you can use this package. Mostly we use NumPy, then Matplotlib and Pandas. Suppose you have a data frame. Suppose you have a data frame like this, and you have roll numbers here. You write the roll numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 that way, and you write the names, whatever names you know, Ram, Amar, whatever names you know, you write names here. You write their marks in the last exam and their heights here, their weights here. Okay, this is one Excel file, and you can even say this is the file, you know, this is a data frame, you can say. So now the question is, can you take this data frame can you import this data frame? Can you take data frame to somewhere where you can do the manipulations? You want to know average weight and average height, whatever. In Python programming, no, it's very, very tough. Even we don't use array of Python programming. So you have the concept of a list. Even if you take it to Python, then how you do that statistical calculations? You want to know the mean, you want to know the average, you want to know the skewness, you want to know the kurtosis. If you know this, then only you will be able to do data analysis. Not only that, you have to apply models and you have to predict future. So how can you do all this? It's not possible at all. There is no way you can do this. So how can you import this Excel file and you can make sense of data? That's why you need a powerful package like Pandas. It came from panel data. Okay, so Pandas, I will show you. And coming to Matplotlib here, whatever visualization I showed you, it's a 2D, 3D, whatever. So there is a saying, one figure is more than 1,000 words. So if I show you in the form of a figure, it will be crystal clear to you. You'll be able to see the figure in your eyes. You will be able to understand properly. So for that visualization, okay, we need Matplotlib here. We have other visualization tools, but yeah, that's what I said. Python, it's like from start to end. You can do end-to-end projects using Python. And we have everything here. You need not go here and there and check something else. So go to Pandas here. Yeah, I've written something about Pandas. Just go through that. Seaborn, that's another one. Seaborn is a Python data visualization library. Apart from Matplotlib, we use Seaborn also extensively here. And this is based on Matplotlib once again. It provides a high-level interface for drawing attractive and informative statistical graphics. Now, web scraping. We say web scraping. So web scraping is something that is where you can take data in whatever form you want from any website, from the web. Okay, so if you see any website, you will see large amount of data. You have pictures, you have text, whatnot, everything mixed up. You want to take data, you want to scrape data from the web. So there is a particular way you need to follow. It takes some time. Maybe it will take 3-4 days time to learn this one. This is also a particular application of Python, you can say. Yeah, that I could have written this one before in Python programming as a application of Python programming. Anyway, it's there. Now let's go to machine learning, the main topics of today's session. So there are a lot. It will take a lot of time. We planned 3 months for this course. Normally, it takes 2.5 months. If we plan 2 hours, like 2 to 4 hours every weekend, it's like 8 hours a month, and 16 hours a month, and 48 hours in 3 months. So if you have seen the syllabus before, we have given 40 hours. Takes a little bit more. By that time, you have to complete some small projects also, which will help you to learn. Even this is a project based learning. Will not teach you, will not go deeper and deeper, will throw you to the to somewhere from where you will not be able to come out. No, it's not required. See, we have to keep a balance between whatever we need from statistics. We will not be doing theoretical statistics. We will not go deeper into programming also. Those who want to be developer, for them we have different courses. We'll guide once Python is over. But yeah, coming to machine learning, you have to know. See, normally we divide into concept and application, which is wrong. Theory and application, that is even wrong. In any subject, we have 3 things. It starts with theory, where you use proofs to prove a theorem. Suppose you are doing something, you are proving something, a plus b square is a square plus b square plus 2ab, you are proving. The proof is part of theory. Then comes concept. What is the concept of a plus b square is a square plus b square plus 2ab? There is a concept. If I ask you, you tell me what is Taylor's theorem. I'm not saying you to prove Taylor's theorem. You have to be able to say in 2 lines what is Taylor's theorem. According to me, Taylor's theorem is a magic. It's a mathematical magic. Taylor's theorem, I mean, I can describe here now. It's not a part of agenda, but yeah, Taylor's theorem, you can express anything and everything. So sine function, logarithmic function, exponential function, everything in terms of numbers. You see the e power x formula, 1 plus x square by 2 factorial. Here, right hand side, you can use a general calculator, and left hand side, you are using scientific calculator. They are equal. I mean, how can you express tan of an angle, tan theta, or maybe sine of an angle, sine theta? That is a triangle concept. That with numbers. Sine x as an expansion. X minus x square by 2 factorial plus x power 4 by 4 factorial. See, we are connecting algebra, the numbers, with sine x. I mean, if you have never thought the magic, just think once again. Like Taylor's theorem, every algorithm here you see, in every algorithm, it's awesome. It's an awesome course. You like so much so that you like to spend, will not drag you. You will automatically come here and give a lot of time yourself. This is so interesting. I can't say here. Just do it and learn it and realize yourself. Like we say, there is some detergent powder. Pehle istemal karo, fir vishwas karo. So you learn it and you have it and you feel it. Okay. Now we have 2 things here: supervised learning and unsupervised learning. Typically, I am giving you a very high level overview. Remember this. It's very, very important. When we talk about supervised learning, we are talking about only 2 things: regression and classification. Though, if you want to learn regression and implement using Python or R programming or any other programming language, Java, next best, that will take 1 month time. Only if you want to learn regression properly, that will take 1 month time. We have written here linear regression, non-linear regression, we have polynomial regression, we have logistic regression. So though that is mentioned here, logistic regression. Okay. So, and also we have lot more we have not listed here. Ridge regression, those things we have not listed here. You learn this much first, then you can develop yourself. So there are 3 steps here. You have to know mathematically what is regression. You have to know the concept. You have to know how the concept, I'm not saying the theory behind that, the concept behind that, and you have to implement using Python. Given a chance, I can complete this machine learning course without any programming language, without the help of any programming language. And if you have 12th class math knowledge, you will be able to understand in 1.5 months, 2 months time, all the topics included here in machine learning without any programming language. That is done 70%. Then you learn a programming language like R and Python, then try to implement. That way also you can do. If you are not from a programming background and you are good at mathematics and statistics, you can do that way as well. Because sometimes people start with Python, they struggle there, then they end up the career learning a bit of Python or R programming. It's not like that. Because very little of Python programming, let me tell you today, reveal this one. Whatever you learn in Python programming, we will be using only 20% of that in machine learning, even not 100% of what you will be learning in this Python course. Will not use a lot of programming. Okay, I'll show you. You will be able to know at the end of this session. Okay, show you some use cases. You will be able to know. And in classification, you want to classify certain things. Okay, when I started, I showed you the classification of IRIS flower. We had 3 kinds of flower: Setosa and Virginica, versicolor. So using their length and all, we measured and we classified. And I showed you some algorithms, if you remember, if you go back and you can watch. So that classification. So how many here we have listed: K nearest neighborhood classifiers you will learn, decision trees you will learn. Decision trees are very, very easy and important and conceptual as well. If you learn decision tree, it will take 1 hour. If you learn properly, it will take 1 day. If you learn in depth, it will take maybe 10 days. Yeah, it will take 10 days. You'll be able to know. Because I can give you something like this here. Suppose someone is a programmer working in IT. He or she decides to pursue machine learning course. Whether you will be able to pursue it successfully or not, you divide. Do you know math or you don't know math? Okay, then suppose you know math, then it's fine, continue. You don't know math, when I say math level till graduation, you know math till graduation or not? There are 2 questions: you know or you don't know. Then do you study mathematics in 12th class? Yes or no? That way you have to divide. That is only tree, decision tree. But here a lot of things will come. Okay, where you have to start, from what node you have to start. Suppose 3 are available. You want to start with someone who knows Python programming or R programming or Java programming, and then how you go further. Here how many branches you can have. Okay, a lot of things will come here. So yeah, it takes time. It takes time to learn. Ultimately you need to learn. Again, it's not a technical session, so I'll not discuss more about this. Logistic regression, though we say regression, logistic regression actually classifies things. Okay, that's why this is within classification. Support vector machines, it's one of the important and used one. So I didn't mention 1 or 2 here. Okay, we'll do that later. Then unsupervised learning, there is what is the difference between supervised and unsupervised learning, that you have to know. Will not be doing reinforcement learning here, okay, and deep learning here. So in unsupervised learning, we don't have labels. Now see here, label, when I say, I've written red here, that is label, okay, and blue here, we say features in machine learning, and green here, these are the labels, okay. And in case of a supervised machine learning, you know the labels, you know the headers, you can say header names, you know. Okay. Then you train your model, and then when you train it giving labels, whatever model you get, okay, the predictive model you get, the predictive model will predict. Suppose you bring this type, it will say it's green. You bring this type, it will say it's blue. You bring this type, it will say red. So what you are doing here in supervised learning, we are doing, you are predicting here label data. You are predicting label data. When I say label data, the data is labeled here. Go to unsupervised learning. See, in unsupervised learning, there is no label here. So what ultimately it will do, this is called clustering. So it will make different clusters. We are not interested whether this is apple, this is banana, or maybe some kind of fruit or whatever. Balls. We are not interested. Okay, you just make a clustering. You make things. You separate the things. Okay, so I'll show you something. One example I can give you here. Suppose you draw a graph, and in this graph we have one clustering here. How it will come? Okay, this is less, this is high. Okay, that will come there. All right. So suppose I'll tell you, you don't say if these are the batsman or bowler. Okay, what you can do is, I'm talking about cricket match. Now, in match of cricket, what you can do is, you just write wickets here, wickets taken, and scores. Okay, so these are high scores, and they've taken less wickets. Like Sachin Tendulkar takes less wickets and scores are very high. Your people like Mohammad Sami or maybe other Bhuvneshwar, all are there. So they've taken a lot of wickets, but they scored very less. So what will happen is your model will not be worried about whether you are a wicket keeper or you are a bowler. Automatical things will be separated. It will separate, your model will separate into two types, and it will give you. Then you term, you say these are the ones who are wicket keepers, who are bowlers, these are the ones who are batsmen. You give name, you give label. I mean, the model will not give you label, but it will say that, see, we got two clustering here, and now you decide what types. So what is your input here? Input here is only the numbers, no label. Numbers means the scoring pattern, whatever scores are there, and the wicket taking pattern, wicket taking the numbers. Okay, you input, and then it will separate into two cluster. Then you term these data, term them. Okay, these data came from the people who are wicket keepers, and these are the batsmen. That you can do. Okay, that you can do. So yeah, let me move further. I'm just giving you a overview. So this is your tree structure. Okay, and this is your k nearest neighborhood. Suppose I have written k3. You want to know star is which type. Star is of type this color, what you say. So let me say indigo or blue. So whether star is type blue, indigo, or yellow, I need to say. So I will take neighborhood, immediate neighborhood. K3 means I will consider 3. Because star is closer to indigo as compared to yellow, I will say star is of type indigo. However, we say KNN. I will take K6. If I take K6, I will consider 6 data points near to star. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then 2 are closer, 2 indigo are closer to star. However, 4 yellow ones are closer to star. So then I will count the maximum here. The maximum is 4. So maximum is 4 means I will say star is of type yellow. So see, with changing K, our prediction changes, right? So what should be K? K should be 3 or 6. Those things you will learn. Now, deep learning is something that will not be covered in this course. Okay. So I'll not talk more about this now. Next work is I will take you through some of our projects we have already completed, and also I will show you some important topics which you will not cover in this course, but they are available in other courses. Once you complete this course, you can pursue those courses or you can join as well. So let me take you through some of our projects. Only 3 to 4 minutes more. See, this is one of the project. You see the headline, data analysis crimes against children in India. This is Jupyter notebook. It works in browser. You see there is 8848 a local host. You don't need computer to internet to do this task though. Local browser. An analysis by Child Relief and CRY report. See different colors we have where more cases is seen, and what are the measures we have taken in India. You see this is data frame. Okay, this is the data frame, and all the states in India. Then this is matplotlib. You can draw the graph, plot, and you do some kind of analysis. We have not used very sophisticated statistical models here, but yeah, little bit of statistics you need to know. There is another one, analysis of video game data. Then the next one is NumPy. You see how we save numbers here. I'm just taking you through the rectangular shape and the array shape here. Okay, how can you keep numbers? NumPy, very, very important. If you want to learn NumPy properly, it might take 2 weeks time, but yeah, you have to do at a faster rate. Next comes support vector machine. You see how we have a 3D and things are separated. In 2D you are unable to separate these two, because if you draw a vertical line, here you have green, here also you have green. If you draw a horizontal line, green. So you can project, you can make a 3D. You have to apply mathematical functions. You take everything up, then also you need a plane to separate. Okay, I think it's not completed. Let me check. Yeah, you see here, this way these are matplotlib functionality. Okay, you can draw everything. This is a support vector machine. It's a part of classification. Then comes this one. I think the same thing. Okay, it's in a plane. It's easy, but still some difficulties are there. So yeah, how to divide, but we are not using 3D. Now this is random forest classification. Again, I'm not going to that now. Then this is Seaborn. Okay, you see the graph here, the colors, you will be able to understand properly. And this one, This one is, see what you are doing, linear regression on Boston housing data set. Using Boston house data set, you will be able to predict the house prices. You can do it for Delhi and Bangalore as well, not a problem. Yeah. Then the next one, K nearest neighbor classifier. Again, this is a supervised learning, KNN. Okay, different ways you can do, you can analyze. So your typical days, you need to spend for the 3 months this way, drawing all the graphs, writing Python code, all are here Python codes. And then comes the next one, K means, it's a unsupervised learning thing. See, it will separate into 3 parts. Now you decide what level you need to give. This is another way, DB scan we say. Okay, again, it's a clustering. It divides into 3 parts. We have hierarchical clustering also, but I forgot to bring that. Okay, I showed some of these. This is what we'll cover, and you will learn a lot. But in future, what you will not learn, that's what I want to show you. Just see this. If you think we have a lot here, that's not. We don't have a lot here happening. So you need a microcontroller here, okay, like Arduino, and you need DC motors and all that to make this kind of a robot, and some actuators and sensors, okay, and material available. This is your Arduino, okay. You can use, this is a microcontroller. You can write your code using USB, and you can bring here and you can do that. I mean, it's not a difficult thing at all. You will not be doing robotics, but yeah, it's not a robotics task, okay. Robotics task is much more. Then the most important one is this one, okay. You see, object detection. So now also there are so many models. In COVID days, people, they have made models using OpenCV. That's a deep neural network concept. Using that, you will be able to know the distance between people, and then you say whether they are maintaining the government order or not. Social distancing, okay. You have to know the distance, then you say, so you identify the persons here in rectangles, okay. Yeah, so that's what you will be able to learn, and that's where I want to end this. Wish you all the best. Those who make up your mind to pursue this, will give our 100% and will help you. You'll be doing some 8 to 10% projects during this course. Yeah, it's over now. Thank you.